Welcome back. This is the Lightforge podcast, Grinning Goats card review stream for Murder at Castle Nathria. This is Adwicktown.
This is Merps. What are we doing? We're
We
not
are
doing
doing
Mage anymore, which is
no.
disappointing because you know how much I love Mage.
Okay, well, we're doing Paladin,
Ugh.
and yes, kind of but Paladins are pretty straightforward this expansion, and they are powerful as usual, but they're not super ridiculously powerful. That's all you can ask for in an expansion. Whenever he
I'm
comes out,
surprised.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, don't do ridiculous things with Paladin. It's so easy to do ridiculous things with Paladin because they are like the most arena centric class. And they didn't. It's powerful still, but it's not overpowered. So let's go with the common cards. There are two A tier common cards, and one B tier common card. We'll go with the two A tier common cards first. First one is Muckborn Servant. Muckborn Servant is a 3 mana 2/4 taunt. Battlecry. Discover a Paladin card. It's good. Discovering Paladin cards
are you reading
good.
out the scores? Since we're not showing it, you should read out the card.
I literally just said there are two A tier cards like 4 times in a row.
Yeah. But how about we just settle? Like after you read the stats, you reiterate this is a blank card. Okay.
Okay, but I did it before I read the card.
I know, but you should do it after. I think it'll just be better for everyone's understanding.
Oh. Okay. Well, this is a A tier card. It's a 3 mana 2/4 taunt. Battlecry. Discover a Paladin card. Discovering Paladin cards are good. We just went over how good Paladin cards usually are for the arena. But it's not a exactly on curve drop, but it still serves a purpose later and has a taunt. So it's a good A tier card.
Yeah, I think that anytime you are able to limit discovers in a good way, okay? So, for example, this is a great way to limit discovers. Like, if you are discovering only spells, that's great, right? Because spells are only class cards. If you're only discovering Paladin cards, well, hell, Paladins have a lot of really good cards. Like, the hit rate is going to be pretty damn high. So this is just a really, really nice card that you are happy to draft. I like the fact that it has taunt, right? Like it'll impact the board a little bit more than just a vanilla 2/4.
It's a better
Great fit.
panda.
Yeah. It's definitely a better panda. Yeah.
All right. Next one, the other A tier card is Buffet Biggin. Buffet Biggin, common 4-drop, 4 mana 2/4. Battlecry, summon 2 Silverhand recruits. Looks like that neutral 4-drop that we all know and love. But there's also Infused 3. Give them +2 attack and Divine Shield. +2 attack and Divine Shield is a lot, by the way. For if you're trying to do the math, that's like, I don't know, like 4 stats for 2 things. So it's like 8 stats. That's a lot of stats. So you really want to infuse this one. You could just play it as a 4-drop before it gets infused, and it could even just naturally get infused by the time you get around to playing it. But you do want this one infused, unless you have nothing else to do on 4. And this one is an A tier card.
Yep. That's it. I don't think I need more explanation.
What does it become? 3/1 Divine Shields. 2 3/1 Divine Shields and a 2/4 for 4 mana.
It's extremely good.
And with the possibility of it being played on curve at that stat too, because it's infused 3, and this is turn 4. So if you just have a 2-drop or a 3-drop that summons 2 bodies, and then you stay on your curve, or if you play a 1-drop, a 2-drop, and a 3-drop, and they all die, even if they only have 1 body, then your Buffet Begin it comes out like that. Ugh. All right. The final card that is a neutral, that is a common card for Paladin is a Sinful Sous Chef. 1 mana 2/1, Death Rattle, add 2 Silverhand recruits to your hand. It's a B.
Yay. This is good. Look, what does this card kind of remind you of? Like Dry Gulch Jailer, right?
Yeah,
Was that the
something like
name
that,
of
yeah.
the card?
Yeah.
This is just like a better version,
Mhm.
right? You're actually getting the stats that you're supposed to get, and then you get more Silverhand recruits. Just a solid card.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's move on to the rare cards. The first rare card I want to talk about is the location. This is A tier card, A tier card, and it is the Great Hall, the Paladin location. 2 mana, 3 charges, set a minion's attack and health to 3. Keeper of Alderman is back. This is his Great Hall. He's not here, but the hall will do its job. And remember, you can always buff your own minions or your own 1/1s. You don't have to use it on your opponent, but you can flexibly use it on your opponent, and you can imagine playing against this, right? Whenever I see a location, I always imagine playing against it. They put it out, they do something, something happens, like whatever, right? It's not terribly great tempo on the first turn always. But then what do? You just never play a big card. Like, they could just keep one last charge and just hold all your big cards hostage.
Yes, they can hold all of your big cards hostage. In between, you could technically play around it, right? Remember, there was that 1-turn cooldown for locations. It's pretty rough, though. It's pretty rough. Paladins limiting what you do, that's really rough. And this is sort of the power of these sorts of persistent things that stay on the board and really limit your options of like playing a big thing, spreading out, etc., etc. It was part of the problem with Super Collider, right? Like, because like I remember when Super Collider first came out. I mean, some people just didn't understand what the card did, but others were like, "Oh, I just have to play a singular unit forehead. Like, oh, just play one unit. Haha." Okay, I mean, you really don't have that much of a choice in Arena of you playing one unit, or you spreading out. You can't just say, like, oh, just do this then. Lack of choice is what defines the Arena. So this forcing you to be like, oh, just don't play a big minion. That's tough. There are lots of great big minions, right? Or just play around the cooldown. Well, that's tough too. Like, so I have to like play at least one turn suboptimally before maybe they use this. That's the problem, right? If you playing around it means they probably just don't use it, and you're playing suboptimally. So it's just going to set up like so many situations that are really frustrating for you. And this is going to stick around for 3 charges. So yeah, and then the first charge you probably don't even see coming.
Yep. The fact that these I always thought it was weird that the locations have rush basically, and they can be used immediately. I thought it would be like a slower thing. But yeah, Great Hall. It's an A tier card. Next card that is a rare card is a Divine Toll. A Divine Toll is a 7-mana holy spell. Shoot 5 rays at random enemies. They give friendly minions +2/+2 and deal 2 damage to enemy minions. This is a B tier card. This is really freaking random. Really freaking random. If there are boards on the board, you have no idea what this is going to do. It is hard to do trades before, it is hard to do trades after. It is messy. If the board is cleaner, like let's say you have no minions and your opponent has minions, then this deals 10 damage, right? And you kind of know how it's going to be split. But 7 mana for 10 damage on the board is not the best thing. And if your opponent doesn't have the board, like, or you clear it and you only have cards left, then it just buffs your minions. And again, that's more controlled, but you're not getting that many buffs for a 7 mana card.
It's just awkward. I think there are ways that you can manipulate it. You know, there are definitely ways in which you are able to kind of maximize what you get out of it. Yeah, the only thing holding it back is like it could be a little bit awkward, but that's about it. It's a good card.
Mm-hmm. You guys will see when you're playing with it. It can just be a super awkward card, way too high percent of the time.
Because what you're looking for is sometimes it like doesn't do enough damage. Sometimes it deals inefficient damage. Sometimes the buff is not exactly enough, right? So it just costs a little bit too much to potentially do not enough. That's the problem with it.
Like, what do you like to do with buffs for the most part? You like to buff and then remove a minion, eat a minion, right? That's what's good to do with the buff. But in order to do that, you need to leave opponent minions on the board, and then this one may just hit it, and then it may just inefficiently hit it and not even remove it, right? So it's a lot of like, it gets in its own way. Like, yeah, it could be a 10-10 charge, essentially, right? That's the best way to do it. But when you're buffing, most of the time you don't want to buff and go face. Most of the time you want to buff and remove stuff. And this one doesn't really give you that option without subjecting you to like insane RNG.
All right, go next.
Yep. Go next. Next up, we have Service Bell. Service Bell is a 3-mana spell. Discover a class card from your deck and draw all copies of it. This is a C tier card. 3 mana is a lot of mana to be drawing a card. You're discovering a class card, but you gotta make sure you have at least 2 copies of that in your deck to make it worth it. Which means that this discover is not really as discovery because your choices are actually limited. It's like get 2 of this card or 1 of the other card, right? Like, this is not the same as actually discovering a card. Or you can use it to actually discover a card, but then you only get 1 card. It's a little mixing of the two. And so overall, it's still definitely a pickable card. We rated above a Yeti. Class cards are good. Paladin class cards are good. You can get 2 cards. You can potentially get 3 cards, depending on how stacked your deck is with certain cards. But it's a lot of mana.
Yep. It's just interesting because whatever you pick, and if you are drawing something that you have 2 of, the fact that you have 2 of them and it is a class card probably means it's pretty damn good. So whenever you do get the double draw, right? It probably means you are double drawing an extraordinarily good card. So that raises the ceiling of this card significantly. But that's kind of the problem of it. Like, you have that high ceiling, but the consistency, because
Yeah.
we're not looking at like the deck that you've already drafted. This is the average score, right? There are
Yeah.
going to be like, this is just better for better decks. And if you just have that like consistency there, well, this could be amazing because what you draw ends up being really, really insane.
It also suffers from the fact that when you're drawing a card, especially when you're discovering a card, you want to discover big cards because it's usually later in the game and size matters more, and mana matters less. But your big cards, you're also less likely to have duplicates of because you just don't want 2 8-drops in your deck, right? That's just something you generally don't want, even if it's a really good class card. So your percent chances of your deck having something like that for you to draw into is pretty low. Most of the cards that you have duplicates of are going to be mid-range or small cards. And that's not really what you want to be discovering into. Like I said, the discover part of this is really kind of a red herring. Because you're not really discovering. You're just having a chance to actually get your 2 cards.
By the way, whenever you mention red herring, like there's an actual card named red
I
herring
know,
now.
but people know it's not a class card. They're not confused. Okay, so Service Bell. It's not trash. It's not great either. Let's go to the next one. Next one is Elitist Snob. We are in the epic section now. Elitist Snob is a 5-mana 3/4 battle cry. For each paladin card in your hand, randomly gain Divine Shield, Lifesteal, Rush, or Taunt. You'll have paladin cards in your hand. That's not the problem. The problem is that the stuff you gain is random, and you're probably not going to have 4 of them to make it not random. And some of these are not worth a lot. Like Lifesteal and Taunt, they are not worth a lot. Divine Shield and Rush, worth a lot more. So you got to get 2 of them. You got to get 2 of them for this to really be anything. And it's just, it's random. You don't get what you need. I don't know. I'm not a fan of this card. Either its design or how good it is. We gave it a C. Like, it's a little better than a Yeti. It just kind of adds up, but it's so hard to use.
Very hard to use. I think some people might think it's like even lower. In which case, I don't think it's like even lower. But yeah,
You
it's
only
just
need
not.
2 things, right? If you get 2 things,
Yeah.
it's kind of like where it's at.
Yep. Okay. I think that's enough about this.
Yeah. And remember, this is the endless card advantage meta, right? With Skullomance being in, you're gonna have Paladin cards. You're gonna have more Paladin cards than in any other meta.
You will.
All right. Finally, you have promotion. Promotion is 1 mana epic spell. Give a Silverhand Recruit +3/+3. Super simple card. It is a B tier card because it is a 3 mana 4/4. Like, even if you're not using it for its actual ability, it's just like an overstated 3-drop at its absolute base.
Yep. It's a 3 mana 4/4, and the extra consideration is such that what it takes away is if you're playing a 3 mana 4/4, you don't have the extra hero power, right? So it's not a pure 3 mana 4/4, but it can also be used for initiative, right? Like, so it's a give and a take, but overall, I mean, it's nice. It's good.
B tier card. Now on to the legendaries. Legendaries. The first one we'll talk about. Let's talk about the good one. It's an A+ card. A+ card. Almost a S tier card, but not quite. Steward the Steward. 3 mana 3/3. Death Rattle. Give the next Silverhand Recruit you summon +3/+3, which makes it a 4/4, and this Death Rattle. So now, basically, whenever this one dies, your next 2 mana hero power gives you a 4/4, which is really good. And every single hero power you do after that, as long as you can kill off your 4/4, gets it again. So it is quite good once you get it to trigger.
This is a card that is, if we are looking at the meta and what we think the meta is going to be, this is a meta beater, right? Like, this sort of beats the meta that we think is going to happen, because it doesn't matter. It's like, oh man, they're going to build up their infuse, they're going to do this and do that. Okay, you as the paladin, you're going to have some infuse. You're going to also like try to play a longer game, while putting an appropriate amount of pressure on them as well. And meanwhile, you are just going to get extra stats all along the way. Like, every other turn at the very least, right? You're just getting a lot of extra stats, which means you're going to outpace them. Like, because you're going to get your infuse, they're going to get their infuse, you're going to get your corrupts, they're going to get their corrupts, but you, every step of the way, are going to get so many more stats because of this thing that you will win the game that you want to be playing and that everyone wants to be playing.
Yep. But keep in mind, like, if you read this and you're like, oh my god, this is so overpowered, my hero power is just summon a 4/4. Your hero power is not summon a 4/4. That 4/4 thing has to die, which you may not be able to make happen. And if you are able to make happen, it means it can't go face, which makes it worse. And it also means that the 4 health you put on it probably didn't matter, and it's effectively a 4/1. So it's really, in practice, probably more like every other turn that you get this 2 mana 4/4 for free.
Yep.
Okay. That is the good legendary, and I'll talk about the bad legendary. The bad legendary is the Countess. It is bad. 7 mana 7/7. Battle Cry. If your deck has no neutral cards, add 3 legendary invitations to your hand. I don't know what legendary invitations are. I don't care. Your deck's gonna have neutral cards, so it's a 7 mana 7/7, and that's it.
Alright, cool.
So that is Paladin. What do you think?
It's fair. It's kind of what you expect from Paladin. Is there like a broken card or two? Yeah, of course there is. It's Paladin. Like, it wouldn't be Paladin without at least a couple of broken cards. But it's not like extreme, right?
Yeah, it's not S tier, it's A tier.
Yeah. So this is I think what we should expect from Paladin, right? It's like, oh, of course there's like a great haul, right? And this is one of those things where, like, okay, well, Bridge is gone, and now they have Hall, and I think Hall is better than Bridge. They just do very different things, right? Bridge is like pushing tempo. It's sort of like a mid-game tempo push. This locks out opponents. But if we're just replacing good cards, Paladins have always had good cards. This doesn't do anything to really push the power level of Paladins. It just pushes their annoyance, which let's face it, every Paladin card does. Like, how annoyed were you with like Templar Captain, right? That was one of the most annoying cards. So
I
I
think that
don't.
goes beyond annoying.
Well, yeah, I mean it was really powerful and it
Like
was
someone
very annoying.
stabbing you repeatedly, yeah, that's annoying. Nah, pricks are annoying. Getting stabbed is just
Well,
is
they
injurious.
well, and then they shield up
Injurious.
afterwards, right?
Yes.
They
And they're
stab you and then they shield
taunting.
up afterwards. Yeah, no, it was extraordinarily annoying. So I think this just continues what Paladins did, uh, which is pretty annoying, but that's just how Paladins play.
Yep. All right. I want to give a shout out to Brand New and to 4P for putting up with us while we do this over 2 nights now.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you guys for existing. Uh, that's it for Paladin. We're doing Rogue next. Rogue. See you guys then.
Bye.